is Thomas Walsh. I live here in Balcarra, County Mayo. My father was born back the road in a place called Linenhall, which is about 1.5 miles. We're here now in the Arcadia Bowl in Balcarra. He was born on, he used to always say his birthday was very easy, 2 11s, 2 19s, the 11th of November 1919. May I emphasize my father's name, Brose Walsh. Brose is not his name at all. His name is Martin Thomas Walsh. But there were so many Walshes in the villages them times, they shoved Brose on him. Brose, he was known as from day one, you could say.
He never learned music. It was just a thing that he just seemed to have. And he could play the accordion. His brothers and sisters went to America and they sent him home an accordion from America. And he started that way.
He was a good accordion player from a young age, and a lot of people knew about it, but it seems as though the Horseshoe Hall in French Hill, which is back the road there about 3 miles, got a license to have a dance in the Horseshoe Hall on the 27th of December 1937.
You have to remember, that Brose Walsh started off, I think in, I don't know what month, but I know it was 1937, he told me, because it always stuck in my mind that it was 1937, because the band is the same age as our Constitution.
A band from Dublin was coming down to play, and the band sent a telegram to say that they weren't coming due to some reason. Mr. Walsh, Tony Walsh, that owned the Horseshoe, came to me, Dad, and he says, "Do you think you could get a band together to play for the night? I don't want to lose all my money, but especially after gotten the license." So he said he'd try, and he got 3 other guys with him. It was an accordion band for the night, and he got over that night, and then people started talking about him. Then there was a lot of house dances, and people were asking him to play in house dances.
He started off really house dances and house weddings. There was no hotels at wedding that time.
So this went on for a while, and then he realised that he could maybe make a living out of it. And so he decided then he'd get a few other guys in as well. He got a Hackney licence. Now a Hackney licence allowed you so much, you were allowed so much petrol for your car to bring people here and there. So he could get gigs and use it there. He was delivering turf from the bogs to people round, and that's where he worked at that for so long, and that's what kept him going. And he got this Jeep and he got up the band a little bit. He could have maybe 6 with him, counting himself, and pulling the trailer. And then
that time when they had bands, they had a piano, saxes, trumpets, trombones, drums, bass. That time they had bandstands in front of all the people to read their music. That time they read the music, and there was 3 tunes to every dance. And the most important dance of the night was the Ladies' Choice.
He decided in 39 years, didn't people come in from Germany during the World War into Castlebar, and they were bringing in a lot of children, and there were some guys in them, and some of the German guys that came in.
I think Brose told me that different brass sound came because in their area there were some German refugees who were in a house, who lived in a house together, and these German refugees were excellent musicians, particularly brass musicians, and Brose heard them and made friends with them and brought them into the band, and then it became the very unique sound of the Brose Walsh Band, because it was good music, well arranged, and with a different sound than anybody else had.
There was a thing going on as well in the cinema.
Used to, during the war years, during the left of the war years, the government brought in some kind of tax on cinemas at the time. And in order to overcome the taxation system, that's what they called cinema variety. And Brose had come with his band.
And if they could play, we'll say, in a cabaret show for 1 hour and 25, there was no tax paid. Burke's owned the cinema, so the tax all went to the musicians. He had guys on the band. Shamey Gavin he used to do MCing for him as well, and Shamey knew all the town, and he knew characters that was coming in, and he could hit off them and he'd get them involved, and it was I believe it was more of a pantomime than anything else.
The cinema variety was great fun because all kind of requests would go up for people, you know, who didn't know a note on their head from Adam. But they go up and they get a big cheer. Come on, give us a lift, more of it, theatre. And that was the cinema variety.
But then didn't the cinema go on fire? All his instruments, amplification, gone. And he was gone off the road. But the people of Castlebar says this cannot happen. They all got together, and there was a big military barracks in Castlebar at the time, and they got after whoever was involved. Would they give them the military barracks for a night to run a dance to help this man get back on the road again with all his people he was employing? The military barracks gave the hall for the night, and he had to borrow instruments and amplification from other guys. Now Stephen Garvey was involved as well at that time. He had a big band in Castlebar, but they all helped out. And my father made enough money to go and buy a new set of amplification and some instruments as well to get back on the road again. Now his brother-in-law, Willie Armstrong in America, who was my mother's brother, sent him a saxophone, a Martin tenor saxophone home, and believe it or not, it's being used by my son to this very day. Brose got going again, and that was the way things happened. And then he started venturing out and doing weddings as well as playing for a lot of weddings, as well as dinner dances and all sorts of things. But my father being only an accordion player, when he got this extra band together and he hired guys, there was a young man in Castlebar by the name of Tommy Devaney, and he took him on as a saxophone player. Tommy was after disqualifying him. He gave him a job on condition that he would give him lessons, maybe before a gig at night for 20 minutes, half an hour, on playing saxophone. And that's where my father started on the saxophone.
He got the idea of doing a ballroom in Balcarra. He was only 22 when he decided. It was World War time, Second World War was on, but he went ahead and did it. And the dance hall was a great place for Sunday. That time, most people cycled to the dances.
So he built the Arcadia Ballroom in Balcarra. Even so it looks round here, it's a hexagon, it's a square building. It would hold 400 to 500 people, and there was a dance here every Sunday night. And the bands came from all over to play in it, and my mother ran that while my father was out gigging around all the time, and then that went on for so long. He toured England in the 1950s as well. When you look back over it now, my God, the BBC came in to see this band from Ireland, and of course they were playing all the latest music, and plus then there was a Cayley section, and my father were on the accordion, he'd play some, and the Irish were flocking to see this Irish band from the west of Ireland. But don't forget, the west of Ireland was where most of the immigration was from. If they didn't go to England, they went to America.
I remember my sister nursed for many years in England, and Brose went over playing there, and it brought tears to her eyes, like, you know. And he was very unassuming, very straight, and a very correct man.
He was there for 3 weeks at the time, and BBC wanted him to come over, and they wanted him to go. That was 1952. Would he come over again, and they wanted to go around and do a whole big thing on him, and my father said, you couldn't be gone like this, gone for so long, out of the country. And he done all that. And so my father went playing all over, north, south, east and west. Now, I remember as a kid, even so the hall would be going here of a Sunday night, and my mother would deal with it. My father had said that Tomas has to wait up Sunday night for 11 o'clock. Luxembourg, 208, Station of the Stairs, to get the top 20. And there was a wire tape recorder at the time. You just left it in front of the radio, and I waited there and recorded this. So my father, I'd say, Daddy, there's a lovely number, 20 tiny fingers, 20 tiny toes, and, you know, songs like that was popular, and they were singing. Elvis was coming on the scene. And he'd look for these particular type tunes that was coming, and he'd be always playing them off. Okay, they were reading music, and okay, the showband era changed all that. There was no reading music. It was tape it and learn it quick and get it out. But that's the way my father operated at that time. And my father with the orchestra, he had about 10 on the band. He was playing saxophone, alto at that time, and Tommy Devaney on tenor. And then he had Dan Dial on alto 1, Tommy was alto 2, and my father himself. And then he had Tommy Ralph or Willie Kane on trumpet, 1 and 2. I'd say Willie Kane must have been a prodigy. And Tommy Ralph the same way. They could play jigs, reels, hornpipes, even on the trumpets. And great lads. Now the saxophone players are every bit as good. But then on drums, he had a fellow by the name of Tommy Richardson. Then he had a lady vocalist, Ina Flaherty was the lady vocalist. And then you had Joe Chambers as the male vocalist. My father was a good old crooner as well, sang a lot. But that was it, and they read the music and sat down to it and all, and just the singers, the lady singer or the male singer sang, and that was it for the night. And them times you went through every town and village in the country to get to a gig, and then play, pack your gear into the van and drive home again and go into digs and stay there. I remember my father's band. I used to always think about it. It was a very musical band. And then when my father would take up the accordion, as soon as he took up the accordion, they'd be all out on the floor dancing with him. He was a swingy accordion, chromatic accordion player. That was the way the band was until he decided us guys coming in then around the 60s and listening to my father's band, this orchestra. The Beatles was coming on the scene and Elvis. Oh God, this is not for us. And we set up a little band. Now we were only 12 years of age at the time, the Big Four, Pat McGuigan and the Big Four, that's Barry's father, had the Big Four. They were one of the biggest things in Ireland at the time, and they used to have relief before them for 2 hours. And my father would give us Tommy Devaney to play with us and keep us together, and we'd play nearly every gig in the county that the Big Four was in. They used to say, we want them young lads to play before us. And I remember the first time I went out and I got my guitar and an amplifier, Watkins amplifier, and here's you want to learn a song or two. So I learned my first song was Johnny Will. I got to get some money and get her right away. Before my baby, she gave me the word to stay. And if I want to be the guy who is her only thrill, I got to take her to the dance next week, or Johnny Will. Every time I come home from college, out with my father playing, and because he was paying me £8 a week. Shoot, huge. But I'd been no sooner in the door, Daddy, where are we playing tonight? Or gone after coming home from Jarlath's. And I remember then after the summer holidays going back to Jarlath's, I'd have 100 quid. You know, that's how it was. We'd give money then to the day boys, we'll say the day pupils in St. Jarlath's, because we were bored. Bring us in a pot of jam. That's how we lived. But then when we finished in Jarlath's, we decided we'd set up, we wanted a band of our own. We had 16 men employed between ourselves. We'd often come in the middle of the night. My father might be coming in from someplace else. How was the gig and all this, and the big powwow. We'd put on the kettle and a talk and then go to bed. And then some fellas would get sick and some other guys would leave you, and then you'd have to be asking your father, would there be any possibility that we could get a loan of a musician from you? We decided after all, because we'll amalgamate the two into one. And so we continued on in a different, we went more into the weddings then, playing at weddings, but the brides, you see a young couple coming looking for my father, Brose, would you have a date? Or we want to get married. Oh, he'd say, he might have a Thursday free, or we'll take that Thursday for our wedding. Or even whatever date Brose was free for the wedding. That was the date the wedding was on. Now, with a feet I have echo, and I suppose there was 3 lines of seats around, where a mattress left on the back. Behind the 3rd line of seats, there was a mattress there. If any fella felt tired, he could go back and have a sleep. The gear was always on the van, and you could leave the keys stuck in the van them times. It was just hop out of it and that was it. But we'll say I collected, coming out of Castlebar, we'd collect the guys that was living in Castlebar and bring them out to the home place, hop into the van there, the lot of us, and away you go to Dublin or wherever you were playing. Then you'd set up and do a bit of a sound check. We might run over a number or two. Say there's a new number out at the moment. We might start it today and get the gist of it. And say now we're gigging again tomorrow night. We might get, if we could leave a half an hour earlier, we might finish this off and get that number. And all of a sudden now you had an extra number. And then the other brother might say, I heard such a number out by the Beatles now yesterday or something like that was the name of the tune. Or you'd start it in Dublin. They'd be coming in at 10 o'clock. From 10 o'clock on, and he might put on a tape recorder for a half an hour, or you might get a half 10 or 11, and then you start playing until 2 o'clock. And then you'd have to talk to the people afterwards and sign a few autographs and take down the gear and get it out onto the hallway, and then go in and have a cup of tea and a sandwich again. That was the score in the iron in most of the places. And then we'd come out and take the gear out of the hallway and pull the wagon into the back door and load it up and go home. And one guy would drive and every fella would sleep. And you went through every town in the country. My mother used to often say, if you don't slow down, you'll find yourselves going out the door, coming back again at the same time. You know, it was crazy. We had a lot of favourite gigs. The iron with Christy Gunn was great. It was like home from home, and it was like fun all the time.
The Iron Ballroom, or as most people miscalled it, the Iron Ballroom. But it was the Iron Ballroom, and Christy and the Walshes were very good friends, and they had a regular date with Christy, and they had regular fans there.
Yeah, the Irish Club, the AOH Club, and then to the right you had the National Ballroom, played at every one of them. And then down a bit to the right again you had, at the top of O'Constable, you could say, the Iron. We nearly lived in the Iron. What we were at the time was Brose Walsh and the Rockaways. And what we were at, we could play the Garda Club of a Thursday night under the Rockaways and go down and play the Irish Club or the Iron of a Friday night as Brose Walsh. And stay over the night, and that's where we're at. That's what we were using our holidays up from work. But let me tell you, if we were staying over and we were playing in another hall, we'd have them told we wanted to get in at 2 o'clock in the day, and we'd probably rehearse most of the day. And that's where we're at, and we might learn 4 or 5 tunes. And that'd keep you fresh again. And but we'd have to change the van about every 2 years. We're putting up about 110,000 miles every 2 years. My father was with us till he passed away in 1995, but he'd done an awful lot of charity work as well. If there was some family in trouble, somebody died, and some of the people in Castlebar would be organising a charity dance. He'd say, the band goes in there and plays, and we play for nothing on that night. You give your nights free. We are not in a position, we are not caught like that. Thank God we have families, but that poor man or that poor woman has no breadwinner. And I'd say we used to do about 5 to 6 a year, free gigs like that. With charity, they'd be selling tickets and they might make 20 or 30,000 quid to help people. The pound was 240 pennies in the pound. Them times. Yeah. But we were young, I suppose, and energy, and that's it. And then we got married, lads got married, and so including myself, and then you have family, and things started to change a bit, and you start getting the car and the wife to go here and bring the young fella there and football and here and that type of thing, and all different sorts of life went on. But I remember my father in 1994, we were playing below in Sligo of a Friday night for a dinner dance. Every Friday night we'd be at a dinner dance in Sligo for one in Castlebar. It was that busy.
Below in Sligo. That was the last dance.
He says, there's something happening, Tomas, to me. What? He says, I can feel the power going off one of my legs. Oh. So he said to me, we went down and we got something to eat. He says, He says, Tomas, will you walk fierce close to me? He says, I'm afraid the power is gone. He says, I have no power in one leg. Oh God, are you sure? Walk very close to me. I put my hand on the belt, he says, on your belt, he says, and I'll keep myself lifted to walk. And he says, I go up on the stage and put a stool up and I sit on a stool, on a high stool, and play away and talk. And we done that and packed up the wagon and went in again to the hotel, into the kitchen for tea. And he said, I'm in trouble. What's wrong? He says, the power's completely gone. He said, I want a power on one leg. Now, my father had prostate cancer for 10 years at that stage.
So he played up till the end, he played. That was what he loved.
But he came home that night and he says to me, when I leaving him off at the house, he says, you're going to have to bring me in. I said, you bet I am. He says, no power at all. Brought him into the house. He says, Tomas, I'm sorry to say it. He says, this is the last night I'll ever be out in the bandwagon playing with you. And it was. He went into hospital. That was a Friday night, and the following day, we got him into a hospital. The guy that was the consultant seen him above on Roscommon. He says, bring him straight into the regional hospital in Galway, which we did. And we brought him home for Christmas because they couldn't do nothing for him. And he died in April. It was Holy Week, and we took, oh God, it was Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and then it's Holy Saturday, and back Easter Sunday. We were playing, where was it? Town Hall, was it Clamorris? Town Hall, I'm not too sure. And you were forgetting half the words, and one of us had left. I could be singing a song, and I could go completely blank, and the brother might cut in like a shot and sing the rest of it for you, and then I'd get going again, and vice versa. It was happened to him. The following Wednesday night, I remember we were down in the Glentworth Hotel in Limerick the second night, people coming up, sympathising. It wasn't his hair. Now, okay, this is the second night out now, and then the third night, and then it levelled up after that. We realised our father was gone, and we didn't want to see our father suffering. I mean, he became paralysed, and we had to lift him in and lift him out of bed, and we had great help, like, in fairness to him. His daughter-in-laws looked after him when we began off playing, and my mother, and that was it, that. But so the band was dropped down to 5, and that's the ways we were going around playing weddings and dinner dances and hunt balls and you name it. And do you know we were doing a power of 25th and 50th wedding anniversaries of people that my father played for their weddings, and to think now that they, and then, believe it or not, I got weddings of their daughters. Well, you played for my father and mother's wedding, you're playing for mine. This type of thing. And I mean, you think about it, the band is going back, I suppose, 1937. Must be about 80, I don't know how many years, but it's a long time. You can make that one up yourself. But that kept going on. But COVID came in then just before COVID. We all were going around with 5. And then COVID started, and you were off the road and nothing happened. And there's 4 of us going around now, or 3. If the 3 brothers have to go out, we'll go out of that. And myself and my other brother often goes out and does some functions for the golf people there with tours, and people come up and sing with that type of thing. But as a rule, we'd be doing slow waltzes, quick steps, slow foxtrots, an odd tango, rumba, rock and roll. We still do all that. You know, the Beatles, Elvis and all that, and Neil Diamond, and you name it, we'd be doing it.
There's an old saying in the business that, you know, you don't educate the punters. The punters educate you. You listen to them. The punter is always right. And your job is to entertain them. That's what they paid you to do. So get on and do it. And that's the par excellence, what the Brose Walsh stands for.
He's good, like, he had a great stroke on him, as they say in Kesselfair, like, you know. He was very good. I liked him, and I was privileged to call him a friend, like, you know.
I have enormous respect for this band. And what are they going now? Since 1937, what's that, 86, 88, you say 86 years ago? What band can say that they ever did that?
When you went to Brose, you know, you knew what you got, like, and he was very popular. Thank you very much. Now, next dance, please.
Well, do you know, when I look back over life, would I change my life I wouldn't change a thing in it. I have known my father and my mother for years and worked with my father, as they say, and my children, or our children's children, as I say, worked with them as well, which is lovely to say. I've had memories that I could never forget. Would I change my life? No, I would live it the same way from start to finish. So life was a good.